Welcome to Durham Technical Community College Early Childhood Education, ECE Talk. I am Dr. Brenda K. Williamson, who will be facilitating this conversation with Ms. Porter. During the summer of 2018, I was the instructor of EDU 221, Introduction to Exceptionalities. One of the aspects that I wanted to do was to have a parent to come and share with the students of having a child diagnosed with disabilities. And who did I find? Yes, Nadiah Porter. We're so happy to have her with us, who's going to share some enlightful things to help all of our early childhood education students to know how to better build relationships with the child, family, and stakeholders working in an inclusive setting environment. Again, thank you so very much for coming to be a part of our very first ECE Talk. So, yay!
Yay!
So, if you will, please just tell us a little bit about your daughter.
Yes, so I have a soon-to-be 7-year-old named Aria, and Aria has multiple disabilities, not just one. Her first diagnosis was global developmental delay, and her most recent diagnosis is autism. She is legally blind, she has 2 genetic disorders, and she is both physically and cognitively impaired.
Okay. So, when you were excited about being pregnant with your daughter, Aria, and yes, she's getting ready to come into the world, how did you feel when you were told that she would not be that typical developing child that most parents look for when that day comes?
Well, my journey was a little bit different in that I told the doctors that her journey would be different. It took several months of testing and convincing for them to finally come to that conclusion. My first hint, however, that something was wrong was when she failed her first hearing test at birth, and then she passed the second one. So we thought, all is well. Usually when newborns pass their second hearing test, if they haven't passed their first, they're just fine. And I started to notice that something was different about Aria when she was 7 months old and she couldn't hold her head up. And she had no trunk support at all. And so that's when I identified an OT that was coming to the daycare that my daughter was going to. And I just kind of started to have some conversations with her, and I started services before an official diagnosis or all of her current diagnoses.
Okay, great. One of the things that I was truly fascinated with as we were corresponding this summer is that you had actually written this care booklet so that anyone who was working with Aria would know more about her prior to meeting her. So will you just share with our listening audience what made you decide to write Aria's book here?
Yes, so because Aria has so much going on, it made it easier for me to be able to communicate things about her outside of a traditional medical terminology format. I really wanted for people who were providing care for her to understand the human side of her, not just the diagnoses that she was given. And so I sat down and I just kind of thought about things that she likes and she dislikes, and some reasons for some behaviors that she has that are related to her diagnoses. And I ended up putting it from her perspective, which I think helps people to connect even more with the content. It's not just me saying, Aria does this, it's Aria saying, I do this because.
Okay. So now you have Aria who has multiple disabilities. How does that change your normal day-to-day life from having extra doctor's appointments and then meeting with specialists as well, and trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page to ensure that she has the best care? Then I'm going to throw the early childhood educator in that mix as well. So how do you deal with that as the parent now with all these different challenges that you may not have thought about initially?
Yes. Every day is different, and what makes my days easiest is preparation. And there's a lot more preparation involved when your child has a disability or disabilities. And I always focus on positively communicating with everyone who sees her in and out of school, in and out of daycare, and I keep constant communication going. And that's one thing that is really difficult for me as a parent, but it has really helped keep things flowing pretty smoothly for Aria, which is the goal. So it might be difficult for me, but my intention is to make it easier on her.
You talked about communication. Is there anything else that you would want the early childhood education student to know as well about just your family dynamics? Because some of our teachers do home visits, and then they'll do parent conferences. So how would you want them to also approach you as the parent now to feel that, again, we're building that relationship?
Absolutely. So be flexible. Aria has 2 appointments that are reoccurring every week, which is less than some kids have, but a lot more than most kids have, in addition to like occasional doctor visits and checkups and things like that. And I am a single mom, and so I have to work and provide for them. I'm also really active in the community, and I'm trying to take care of the community in addition to my kids. And so be flexible. Sometimes we might need to cancel, don't be upset. And thankfully I have an older child who helps clean the house, but the environment might not be what you'd expect when you're coming to home visits. Don't be judgmental, but also don't turn a blind eye if there are some concerns that you find when you're visiting in the home. And how does it affect the family dynamic? As I mentioned, I have an 11-year-old. Her name is Layla, and I have to be really intentional about including Layla because Aria gets about 90% of my attention, and so it is hard for her, I know, but she's a trooper. I am single because I don't have any time to look outside of the community and my family right now, and my place of business. But it's honestly, it's stressful. It's hard. I do it with a smile on my face most days, tears behind closed doors a lot of days as well. And it's really helpful when care providers are understanding and patient, and when they communicate that to you and use language like I understand, I get it, even though you might not. And you probably, if you don't have a child with disabilities, you don't, but it's okay to say I understand. Yeah.
Okay. So with that smile upon your face, tears may be shedding, what is Aria's greatest strength that she brings to your family?
Oh, yes. The greatest strength. For me, motivation. And because she's overcome so many things, for example, walking. When she was younger, she would just crawl until the age of 3. And then I would see her do what I called run crawl. She was really, really fast. And then we found a PT who introduced a walker. And so we went on many long walks outside with the walker, even before she knew to put one foot in front of the other. And it was kind of just standing with the walker and encouraging her and singing walking songs. And then she walked, and now she runs. And so I think her greatest contribution to the world is just the ability to show people that they can do it if they try.
Okay. So with all of that, now here comes a new parent. who finds out that they're going to have a child as well with a disability or multiple ones, what advice would you give to them? Because this would be a new experience for the family.
Yes. The advice that I would give is ask questions. You are not yet the expert. However, you do know your child best. So ask questions and be mindful of when things are not a good fit for your child, and be brave enough to sever ties and find something better for your child. That's my advice. Be open to sharing your woes with your family and your friends. They don't know what you're going through unless you tell them, and invite them in to help you. I have a lot of good friends in the community that come to my rescue when I need it, and they wouldn't know that I needed it had I not communicated that to them. Trust your gut and believe that where your child is now is not where they're going to be down the line.
So still keeping those positive out in the atmosphere, that they're still your atypical but yet your typical baby, because that's who they are.
Yes.
What I would like to do at this time is move our shift more into the classroom. In the early childhood education field, we're seeing more of our classrooms being inclusive, where we have typical and atypical children. What advice would you give this maybe first year teacher, or even a veteran teacher all of a sudden, that now I find my classroom that has more atypical developing children, which means now I have an IEP or an IFSP, just depending upon the child's age?
First of all, hats off. Because my one child is a lot. I do give thanks and show gratitude to my daughter's teachers all the time, and similarly to someone acknowledging someone that was in like the military or something. I say thank you for your service. It is going to be a difficult journey. It's going to be easier if you communicate well with parents. It's going to be easier if you believe in the students that you have. It's really easy to separate children when you think that one is going to harm the other, or that, you know, when there are different levels of development and stuff like that. But as much as possible, let the students teach one another, and that's been an amazing thing to see in my family with my daughter Layla, teaching Aria things that I have been trying to teach her. Ask for support when you need it from other teachers. Ask for advice. And similarly with parents who need to lean on other people for support, do that as well. Have patience. Go back to the books if you need to. Google if you need to. We don't expect you guys to know everything. And every child is different. And my mom says that Aria is 10 different children every single day. So expect the unexpected. And when there are strengths that you see in the children, communicate that to the parents and the families. However you need to, write a note, send a note home, send them a text message, let them know when they pick when they pick their kids up. You can say, hey, Aria did a really great job of helping to clean up today, because that will just keep that positive communication going. And on the flip side, don't be afraid to communicate negative behaviors. 9 times out of 10, the parents are seeing them also, and they might have a strategy at home that can help out in the classroom as well.
So definitely, again, going back and building those positive relationships. What I would like us to do now is to move to the IEP, and I must make apologies, Individualized Education Plan, for those who may not yet be that advanced in our course studies. But when it's time to come from the parent perspective, all of these professionals are at the table, and they're getting ready to talk about your child. what advice would you give that parent that hears the physical therapist, occupational therapist, the classroom teacher, and they all are sharing this information with you, the parent, and how are you feeling at that time?
I wasn't intimidated by the process simply because everybody said you're going to be so overwhelmed and intimidated. So I expected it. Not that it was easy, but it was fine for me. As a parent, my advice during that process would be to ask lots of questions. Once again, if there is even a word that you don't know, ask about it. Ask them to explain as many times as you feel comfortable, until you feel comfortable. And challenge something. If you don't believe in something they're saying, I know for me, for speech, for example, I've had to ask my speech therapist to do less for Aria, and on the flip side, I've had to ask some therapists to do more. And remember, the IEP is not set in stone. You can always go back to the table. As taxing as that is and time consuming as that is for everyone, it's worth it. And ask questions, challenge the process. Don't rush the process too, because as much as you may want to see your child working towards certain goals, the professionals, the OTs and the PTs and the speech therapists and the vision therapists and the hearing specialists, which Aria has had all of, they know how to pace progression, and so trust their skills as well. And don't be intimidated. It's not going to get any easier. So you might as well go in with your head up the first time. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll share with our early childhood educators open communication, and then to realize that we have one common goal: what is best for the child. We have talked so much about Aria. I feel as if I know her all over again. And as her parent, I'm sure that part of your thoughts are what will happen as she continues to mature. So what do you want for Aria as I know her birthday's coming up soon, in 5 years, maybe 10 years from now, what do you want for her going into teenage years, adulthood?
Yes. So for me, I want her to be more independent than she is now. I think that she'll always need quite a bit of support, but I know she will be more independent than she is now. I see her writing music. She's very musical. And what I want for her is to have lots of friends and a community that gets her and lets her be herself, and includes her. And what I want most for her is for her to be safe and to be loved.
Okay. I think that's for any parent. Regardless if your child is typical or atypical.
Yes.
Is there anything else before we get ready to conclude our interview that you would like to share with our early childhood education students that you haven't shared thus far?
Yes. Thank you. You guys are on the front lines. You are us parents when we're not around. The journey is not easy, take it from me, but it is worth it, and I hope that you celebrate like we do along the way.
Well, thank you so much for volunteering to come and to share this valuable information.
Yes.
And to all of our early childhood education students, we need for you to know that you are high quality educators providing this care that is needed for all of our children, regardless of whether they're typical or atypical. So again, we thank you all. And behind the camera, we have our program director, Miss Kathy Holly Robinson. So yay to her as well. Again, this has been our ECE Talk. Thank you.